In the year 2000, a French marine archaeologist named Franck Goddio was searching the floor of the Mediterranean Sea off the coast of Egypt. He was looking for sunken ships. What he found instead changed everything we thought we knew about the ancient world. At a depth of approximately 10 meters beneath the surface of Abu Qir Bay, he found a city. Not the ruins of a city, not fragments of a city. A city. Streets, temples, statues, jewelry, coins. The remains of over 60 ships lying exactly where they sank.
And at the center of it all, a massive stone slab bearing an inscription that identified what he had found beyond any doubt. The city of Thonis-Heracleion, one of the most important trading cities in the ancient world. A city so significant that the ancient Greeks called it the gateway to Egypt. A city so wealthy that it was mentioned by Herodotus, the father of history himself. A city that had been sitting on the floor of the Mediterranean Sea for over 1,200 years, while the world above forgot it had ever existed. This is its story. Welcome to Unheard History. Before we go into the discovery, I need you to understand what Heracleion actually was, because most people have never heard of it, and the people who have heard of it usually think of it as a legend, a myth, the kind of story that ancient people told about places that may or may not have actually existed, like Atlantis. But Heracleion was not Atlantis. Heracleion was real, extraordinarily, powerfully, magnificently real. At its peak in the 6th and 7th centuries BC, Heracleion was the most important port city in all of Egypt. Every single ship arriving from the Mediterranean world had to pass through Heracleion first, before it could enter Egypt. Every trading vessel carrying grain and olive oil and wine and timber and precious metals had to stop at Heracleion.
Every merchant, every diplomat, every traveler, every soldier arriving from Greece or Phoenicia or Cyprus or any other Mediterranean civilization came through Heracleion first. It was the customs house of the ancient world, the gateway through which everything passed. And it was extraordinarily wealthy because of that position. The taxes collected at Heracleion funded Egyptian temples and Egyptian armies and Egyptian kings. The gods of Heracleion received offerings from every civilization that touched the Mediterranean. The city sat at the mouth of the most important branch of the Nile Delta, the specific geographic position that made it simultaneously the entrance to Egypt and the exit from it. And then, one day, it was gone. Not conquered, not burned, not abandoned. Gone. Swallowed by the sea it had lived beside for 8 centuries. And for 1,200 years, the world forgot it had ever existed. To understand what Heracleion was, you need to understand the specific geography that made it possible and ultimately destroyed it. The Nile Delta is one of the most extraordinary geographic features on Earth. The Great River, which flows as a single massive stream for most of its length, fans out as it approaches the Mediterranean into multiple branches, creating the specific triangular delta landscape that defines northern Egypt. In the ancient world, this delta was even more complex than it is today, with more branches and more islands and more waterways, creating a labyrinthine landscape of water and fertile land and marshes. Heracleion sat on one of these delta islands at the mouth of the most important Nile branch. The city was built on land that was simultaneously stable enough to support massive stone temples and wealthy enough from the annual Nile flood to support a large population. But the delta landscape had a secret. a geological secret that the people who built Heracleion either did not know or did not fully understand. The Delta Islands were not solid ground. They were composed of soft sediment deposited by the Nile over thousands of years.
Sand and silt and clay and organic material all compressed together into the specific soft geology of a river delta. And soft delta sediment has a specific vulnerability that hard bedrock does not have. It can liquefy. Under specific conditions of earthquake activity or extreme water saturation, the specific soft sediment of the Nile Delta can lose its structural integrity almost instantly. The ground stops being solid. It becomes a liquid. And anything built on it, anything that has been standing on it for 8 centuries, sinks. Not slowly, not gradually, almost instantly. The specific geological process that destroyed Heracleion is called soil liquefaction. And it is one of the most terrifying and most complete forms of natural destruction available, because it leaves no warning, no smoke, no fire, no advance notice of any kind. One moment, the city is there. The next moment, the ground beneath it is gone, and the sea rushes in to fill the space where a civilization used to be.
The ancient sources give us some information about what Heracleion looked like at its peak. Herodotus, who visited Egypt in the 5th century BC, mentions the city and its great temple to Heracles, the Greek equivalent of the Egyptian god, whose sanctuary dominated the city. Other ancient sources mention the city as a place of extraordinary commercial activity and extraordinary religious significance. The specific combination of commercial wealth and religious authority that made Heracleion both wealthy and powerful. But the ancient sources also give us something more disturbing than descriptions of the city's magnificence. They give us hints of what was happening to the city in its final centuries. The ground was sinking. Slowly at first, barely noticeably. The specific process of delta subsidence that occurs when soft sediment compresses gradually under the weight of a city and its stone temples and its warehouses full of trading goods. Archaeological evidence from the site confirms what the ancient sources hint at. The city was already partially flooded in its final period of occupation. Streets and buildings that had been above water level were now partially submerged.
The inhabitants were still there, still trading, still worshiping in their temples, still living their lives in a city that was very slowly, very gradually going underwater. And then came the catastrophic event, the specific trigger that turned the slow subsidence into instant oblivion. Whether it was an earthquake or an extreme Nile flood, or a specific combination of geological factors that scientists are still debating. Whatever the specific trigger was, the result was instantaneous and total. The soft delta sediment beneath Heracleion liquefied. The ground became water. And the city, the magnificent, wealthy, sacred, ancient city, dropped into the sea in a matter of hours, possibly in a matter of minutes. And the sea closed over it. And 1,200 years passed, and the world forgot. And then, Franck Goddio pointed his underwater equipment at the floor of Abu Qir Bay and found it.
Now stop. Because what Goddio found on the floor of Abu Qir Bay is not just remarkable as an archaeological discovery. It is remarkable because of what it tells us about how Heracleion disappeared. Most sunken cities show evidence of the destruction that preceded their submersion. Fire damage, evidence of violence, the specific archaeological signatures of a city that was destroyed before it sank. Heracleion showed none of that. What Goddio found was a city that appeared to have simply stopped, mid-activity.
The cooking vessels found on the sea floor were still in their hearths. The offerings were still on the temple altars. The coins were still in the merchants' pouches. The ships were still tied at their moorings. A city preserved at the exact moment of its disappearance. Like a snapshot. Like a photograph taken at the instant before the ground gave way. Which tells us something extraordinary and something deeply disturbing about what happened to Heracleion. The people did not have time to take anything. They did not have time to grab their valuables. They did not have time to run. They barely had time to understand what was happening. The ground simply stopped being ground, and everything that was on it went down. Stay with me, because what they found on the sea floor tells us exactly what those final moments looked like. The discoveries on the floor of Abu Qir Bay represent the most extraordinary underwater archaeological find in the history of Egyptian archaeology. Over 20 years of excavation have revealed a city of extraordinary scale and extraordinary completeness. The Temple of Amun-Gareb, the great temple that dominated Heracleion, is visible on the seafloor as a vast stone complex of extraordinary scale. Massive carved stone blocks still in their original positions. Columns fallen but present. The specific sacred geography of an Egyptian temple still readable in the ruins on the seafloor 1,200 years after the sea closed over it. 16-foot-tall statues of pink granite lying on the seafloor, exactly where they fell when the city went down. 3 colossal statues representing the god Hapi, the personification of the Nile flood, a Ptolemaic queen, and a pharaoh, all 3 lying on the seafloor in the specific positions of objects that fell rather than objects that were placed. The statues are not damaged in the way that statues are damaged by human violence. They are damaged in the way that statues are damaged by falling, by the city falling, by the ground disappearing beneath them. Gold jewelry lying on the seafloor, not scattered as it would be if it had been dropped in panic, arranged as it would be if it was in a container that fell with the floor that held it. The specific archaeological evidence of a catastrophic and instantaneous event rather than a gradual abandonment. Bronze coins, ceramic vessels, ritual objects, all lying on the seafloor in the positions they occupied on the day the city disappeared. But the single most extraordinary discovery on the floor of Abu Qir Bay is the one that confirmed beyond any doubt what Goddio had found. A black granite stele. A large carved stone slab bearing a hieroglyphic inscription commissioned by the pharaoh Nectanebo I in the 4th century BC. An inscription that named the city Thonis-Heracleion, the gateway of Egypt, lying on the floor of the Mediterranean Sea, where it had been for 1,200 years, waiting to tell the world its name. The excavation of Heracleion is still ongoing. Over 20 years of diving have revealed extraordinary things. But the site is so large and so complex that Goddio and his team estimate they have excavated only a fraction of what lies on the seafloor. Most of Heracleion is still down there, waiting, preserved by the same sea that swallowed it. The cold, dark water of Abu Qir Bay has kept the city in extraordinary condition. Objects that would have decayed completely on land over 1,200 years have survived on the seafloor because the cold, dark water protects them from the specific environmental factors that cause decay. Wood,
fabric, organic material, all still present on the seafloor in forms that would be impossible on land. A city more completely preserved by its destruction than it would have been by its survival. The ground that failed it became the tomb that kept it, and the sea that swallowed it became the archive that saved it. There is a specific lesson in the story of Heracleion that goes beyond archaeology and beyond history. The things we lose are sometimes the things that are best preserved. The cities that disappear are sometimes the ones that survive most completely. The histories that are buried are sometimes the ones that tell us the most truth. That is what unheard history is. The things that went down that we are bringing back up. Subscribe, because next time we go even deeper.